The Converse Chuck Taylor All-Star, formerly just the All-Star, has been in constant production since 1917 and virtually unchanged since 1949. It's gone from the world's most prevalent basketball sneaker to a lifestyle staple. Converse remains beloved for both its history and simplicity, but there's a lot of backstory behind that canvas sneaker, so check out the 10 crazy things that you didn't know about Converse Chuck Taylor All-Stars. We're OnlyBrands, the channel dedicated to bringing you awesome regular content on the world's hottest brands. Let's do this. Number 1. Converse. The first half of the name. Ostensibly, 1917 is an unlikely year to start a success story. World War I was still raging, and the devastation of the Spanish flu pandemic was imminent. Talk about a difficult moment. And yet it was during this annus horribilis that the Converse Chuck Taylor All-Star made its debut, a basketball shoe that would go on to achieve an illustrious level of ubiquity in the sneaker world. Founded in 1908 by Mr. Marcus Mills Converse in Malden, Massachusetts, the Converse Rubber Company spent its formative years doing what most of the industry were doing at the time, making anything out of rubber. Early areas of expertise included, but were not limited to, galoshes, leather duck hunting boots, automobile tires, tennis shoes, and then morphing into a fully realized basketball product line by around 1916. While the timing was far from perfect, it made sense that a company based in Massachusetts would turn its attentions to a new sport that was taking the state by storm. Invented in 1891 in Springfield, less than 100 miles from Converse's headquarters, basketball was becoming hugely popular on the East Coast. Unlike baseball or American football, both of which required large outdoor playing fields, basketball could be played in a much more confined space, meaning the pastime caught on in the playgrounds of urban and collegiate neighborhoods, of which there were plenty in Converse's hometown. Though the All-Star certainly wasn't the first basketball sneaker or even Converse's earliest foray into the market, it did boast certain features that gave it an edge over competitors. These included the heel patch, which was placed on the inner rather than the more conspicuous outer, a feature supposedly designed to protect the ankle bones of players, according to Ms. Semmelhack. But the diamond tread pattern, which is still present today, was really the bedrock of the design. And the shape allowed people to push off in multiple directions and stop quickly. Number 2. Second half of the name, Chuck Taylor. But what of the other half of its name, Chuck Taylor? In the early years of basketball, brands would start their own teams and send them around the country to advertise their wares. Converse's own team, also dubbed the All-Stars, was headed up by Mr. Charles Chuck Taylor, who was hired in 1922 as a coach and salesman. What set Chuck Taylor and Converse apart was that they would show up and not only play games, but they would put on clinics for coaches of players as well. After all these clinics, they would take the coaches down to the sporting goods store, and there, they would have all the coaches order the All-Star shoes. Then, year after year, the coaches would remember, oh, who taught me how to play basketball? Chuck Taylor. And what company did he work for? Converse. And what shoe was he selling? The All-Star itself. Taylor's name was added onto an ankle patch in the sneaker in 1932. Number 3. Number 1 overnight. The Converse All-Star quickly became the number 1 shoe for basketball, and by the late 1940s, most of the NBA sported Chucks. They remained the best-selling basketball shoes of all time, even though very few people wear them for basketball anymore. Many teams switched to leather Adidas in the late 60s. By the way, a lot of hard work and care goes into these videos, so if you could help us out and click the subscribe button, we would greatly appreciate it. Number 4. Chuck 2. The updated Chuck 2 is Converse's first real attempt to update its flagship product since the early 20th century. We redesigned everything, yet redesigning nothing, explained Geoff Cottrell, a vice president and general manager of the Converse. We focused on the comfort that customers were asking us for. Though the shoe bears strong resemblance to the original, its differences lie in the details. A Nike sock liner, a foam padded collar, and a padded tongue. The company is understandably reticent to shake things up. All-Stars make up the majority of the company's revenue, and like any classic design, its fans can be diehards. In the 1990s, when the company tried to introduce All-Stars that were more comfortable and had slightly fewer design inconsistencies, hardcore aficionados rebelled. They missed the imperfections in the rubber tape that lines the base of the shoe, according to the Washington Post. Number 5. Weighted down. Though he sold a lot of Chucks, he wasn't always a great coach. Taylor is in large part responsible for the shoe's popularity with athletes. The company rewarded him with an unlimited expense account, but his training advice wasn't always the best. As former University of North Carolina player Larry Brown told Spin in an oral history of the shoe, "My greatest memory of Chuck Taylor, probably 61 or 62, is that he told Coach Dean Smith that he'd make us special weighted shoes in Carolina blue. The idea was that we'd wear the weighted shoes in practice, and then during the games, we would run faster and jump higher. Well, we tried them for one practice and everyone pulled a hamstring." Number 6. Converse is a punk rocker. During the 70s, Converse trainers were adopted by the punk rockers, famously the Sex Pistols and the Ramones. Needless to say, these musicians didn't care about the shoe's basketball heritage. When Tommy Ramone, drummer of the Ramones, was asked who Chuck Taylor was, he replied he was maybe a basketball coach or something. I don't know. He made cheap shoes. Dee Dee and I switched over to the Chuck Taylors because they stopped making the style of the US Keds and Pro Keds that we liked, Markley Ramone told Spin. Joey never wore them. He needed a lot of arch support, and Chuck Taylors are bad for that. Converse didn't intend for their shoes to be punk. We always thought of ourselves as an athletic shoe company, John O'Neill, who oversaw Converse's marketing from 1983 to 1997, told Spin. We wanted to sell a wholesale shoe. The company was still touting its shoes as basketball sneakers as late as 2012, and some of its non-Chuck sneakers still have pro endorsers. Number 7. Rubber tracks. For decades, Converse has been on the feet of countless musicians as they've honed their craft in bedrooms, garages, rehearsal spaces, studios, and on stages around the world. Finally embracing its role in the music scene, Converse thought it was time to give back to the community that makes the brand what it is. Enter Converse Rubber Tracks, a built-from-scratch, state-of-the-art recording studio and community center where bands can record, rehearse, gig, and connect for free. A platform that started in Brooklyn, New York that has now gone global. That was an especially juicy fact, right? I think that one definitely deserves a thumbs up. Number 8. Cool Converse for celebs. Punk aside, Converse will always be the shoe of rock and roll. The brand has collaborated with The Grateful Dead, The Doors, Black Sabbath, The Who, Pink Floyd, Ozzy Osbourne, Blondie, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, AC/DC, Metallica, Gorillaz, The Edge, Billy Joe Armstrong, and M83. They also did a Ramones edition, a Kurt edition, and a Clash edition. In 1976, All-Stars were still considered a viable athletic shoe. If you look closely at the training montage from Rocky, you'll see the boxer is wearing Chucks. Wiz Khalifa loves them. The rapper named his record label Taylor Gannog Records in part due to his appreciation for Chuck Taylors. In 2013, he launched a shoe collection with Converse featuring 12 styles. Wilt Chamberlain, legendary basketball player for the Philadelphia San Francisco Warriors, the Philadelphia 76ers, and the Los Angeles Lakers, wore Chucks when he scored 100 points during a game on March 2nd, 1962. Why aren't Converse sneakers the official shoe of the NBA? Number 9. Converse gets eyes. In 1962, Converse rolled sneakers got their ventilation eyelets in 1932. As gross as this may sound, we're pretty thankful because before this invention, the shoes left your feet all stuffy and sweaty. Hashtag blessed. Number 10. Logo change. It's possible you haven't seen the new Converse logo, but it's also possible that you've seen it and not even realized it's new. That's because the redesigned mark draws inspiration directly from the brand's heritage and uses elements that have been in their visual vocabulary for decades. The new identity began rolling out earlier this month on Converse.com and in some marketing materials, but will take almost a full year to complete. Simply stated, the new logo replaces the word mark that has the star in the letter O by combining the star chevron that's been used as an embellishment on many of their sneaker styles with a refreshed word mark. The result is an enthusiastic and forward-looking identity that respects its brand heritage. We appreciate you sticking around to the end of the video and hope you enjoyed, but why stop now? Click these videos here for more awesome content.